Welcome everybody to the 2016 Phys Ed Summit. My name is Jonathan Jones, and I'm so excited to bring to you a great physical education teacher, Lindsay Dillon. So Lindsay, go ahead and take it away.
All right, guys, good morning. My name is Lindsay Dillon, as Jonathan said, and I'm excited to talk to you guys today about planning our family fitness nights, as some interesting stuff that we do with our field day and kind of how we and get the ball rolling. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share my for you. All right. All right, as that's loading, I'm in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I have been teaching, this is my 7th year. So I'm very excited to share some of the stuff that I've been doing over the last 6 years as I've started my physical education teaching career. I started out in Charlotte, North Carolina for a year, and I've been at Pleasant Knoll. This is my 6th year there, so 7 years, 7th year total. There's my email and my Twitter handle if you guys want to get in contact with me. We'll have, lots of stuff to talk about. I am looking at the back channel, and Jonathan will let me know if there's any questions that I need to stop and answer. But if you guys have any questions, let me know, or after the presentation's over, just feel free to email me or contact me through Twitter or even Facebook. I have a Pleasant Knoll PE page, PKS. Physical education on Facebook. If you guys want to get on there, you can always contact me through there as well. So today we are going to discuss starting out with our family fitness nights. This is something that I really wanted to get involved with, as soon as I started teaching for our school community to get involved. Just, wanted to bring them together outside of school and have families exercising together. So we're going to talk about the different formats that I've used before, some different activity ideas, as well as kind of how I set up and organize each type of family fitness night and how I kind of get the word out too. So first, I've got kind of 3 different formats that I've used in the past. When I first started, I just set up stations in the gym, much like we would do in our PE classes. Had about 8 different stations set up, and we rotated off of a timer, which is what I do in my class, and I'll talk about that timer a little bit later when we talk about our field day. But I just wanted to get students out, get their families out, give them some opportunities to get active. It was very simple and basic. Had parents sign up for a 30-minute or an hour time slot, and they just came in and participated in about 8 different stations. And that was kind of the first one that I did. I've also done some group activities where they sign up and everybody's participating in the same activity at the same time. And then my third format is, more so a format that doesn't really fit a station or a group activity. It's kind of a combination of both that I've done, 2 activities I've done with that format. So first, starting out with stations, as I said, I've done time stations before, where we've got various stations set up. They'll come in for an hour, and they go to a specific starting station, and then they rotate through all 8 or however many stations that I have set up. They could be participating just as their family, or I have some families grouped together at one station so that other families can kind of get to know each other. I've also done some stations that are just kind of open stations, and students and families can come in, and I've got a lot of different stations set up, but they're kind of free to roam around and participate in any of the activities that they want to, as opposed to being at a set station and having to rotate on a timer. My timed ones were usually about an hour, and I would do 2 sessions. So I would have 50 parents come in for 1 hour, and then have another or 50 families, and then have another 50 families come in for the second hour. For the open stations, it kind of depends on if we have something else going on at our school. You know, a lot of times I'll pair up with the PTO on our book fair nights, and we'll have a book fair family night, and I'll just set up a bunch of stations, and it'll just be open stations. You know, families can come and go as they please. They can they can go to stations outside, and they just kind of go to the ones that they want to. You know, if one's full, they can go to another one and kind of come back to that one later. You know, that type of stuff. Format. Actually, here's some station activities. These are kind of basic, stuff we might do in our PE classes as well. Cornhole, ladder golf. We're lucky enough to have a rock wall. Set up some bowling lanes. Volleyball and I put a couple different types of balls out. Beach balls, balloons, some trainer volleyballs, just to kind of help with the different skill levels and the different age groups that'll be coming out. Shooting a basketball or playground balls, soccer shooting. Kids can get in using our foam soccer balls, and they always want to play goalie whenever we do our soccer unit. So that kind of gives them a chance to get in and kind of have a soccer shootout. Always an easy one to put out there, especially for our young students. Toss game, and also the different Just Dance videos that are available on YouTube. If you're lucky enough to have a smart board or smart TV, I was lucky enough to get one of those a couple years ago, and you can play it on there, or if you have a projector, you can project it on the wall in the gym. So this is one of the activities that I did. This is kind of one of my most successful events so far, as far as the number of people that have come. This was our tailgate last year. PTO organized the food. Unfortunately, it was pizza, but PTO is going to sell, what's going to be able to make them some money, work on some healthier options in the future. But what we did was, I advertised it as a tailgate, and so students wore their favorite jerseys or T-shirts from their favorite sports teams. It was, right around football season, so tried to get the tailgate theme going. They could eat, kind of hang out, do some cornhole. We had all these stations set up outside, access to the playground as well. And then we had a bunch more stations set up inside where, students and families could walk around, and had like a scooter obstacle course. And I've also had partnered with a local business, which we'll talk about a little bit later. They're called Achieve Fitness, and brought out the obstacle course that he uses to help train kids in his after-school program, and he sets a big obstacle course up in the gym. Does that for us for free. It's kind of free advertising for him, but it's great for us because we get to use his equipment and have his employees kind of come out and help the students kind of go through his agility obstacle course. So this was kind of a come and go as you please type of event. I'm not sure, I can't remember what the total number was that we had, but this was one of our greatest turnouts for our family fitness night. And it was just kind of a tailgate theme, and just, did some stations, had them set up around the bus loop in the basketball court and playground area, as well as inside in the gym. I'm getting ready to do another one like this very soon in November.
Hey, Lindsay.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
We have a question from Beth,
Okay.
who's participating on our back channel. Beth asks, how many students in the school and families attend on average, if you know that number?
I know I've had at least 200. I think for my tailgate, we probably were closer to 300. We have about 600 in the school total. So,
wow.
I'd love to have, 50%, as much as I can. I know these ones, the tailgate, sometimes I do a sign up for events like this, and sometimes I don't. For the ones that are timed, I usually do a sign up, which I'll talk about in a minute. But that would give me, I know we had 200, students and parents signed up in, less than 48 hours to come to one of our events. But usually probably around 200 to 300 kind of coming and going throughout the night. It's usually about a 2-hour event when I couple it with our book fair family night.
Nice. And also, Elisa asks, was it always a big event, or the first one, was it a smaller event, or was it always this big?
Right. The first one was relatively small. I had about 50 people, I would say, for a 1 hour session, and then another 50 for another 1 hour session after that. So it's probably about a total of 100 people when I first started, and it's kind of grown since then. I'll have to look back at my sign-up sheets and maybe kind of track that exact number of how much it's grown by. But it's definitely gotten up to about 50% participation from the school, especially when I have those events that are kind of come and go as you please. They don't have to be here at a specific time. If they have baseball practice, they can swing by after or swing by before going to baseball practice, when it's not a timed event. And I started out with more of the timed events and have moved more towards, the events that parents can come and go as they please. I find I have more participation that way because of the freedom that allows them to, they don't have to be there at a certain time. I've had an event that I'll talk about that was timed, but it was a 3-hour event. And I'll talk about that one as well, but it kind of gives them some options where they don't have to be there the whole time and they can kind of choose the time that they go.
Okay.
Any more questions right now?
Yeah, we have a question from Ralph.
Okay.
He asks, is your event always outside or can it be done inside?
Actually, the majority of my events have been inside. The tailgate was the first one that I did last year, the first time that I've done an event outside. And I've done 2 events that are similar to that. And one year, it started raining about the last 15 minutes, so we really lucked out with that. Tailgate was perfect weather. It was beautiful outside. It was November, so it wasn't too hot. So I'm trying to get more outside activities. We don't have a lot of field space, so we kind of have to use that bus loop concrete area. So I have to obviously take that into consideration when I'm planning those activities. But I love having the outdoor option because it allows more space. I've done a kind of a free-flowing event where it was just inside the gym, and it really got too crowded for parents and families to kind of move around and actually do the activities. So once I was able to open it up to the outdoors, I just kind of propped open the gym doors that lead right outside to that bus loop playground area. And, it allowed more, space, more activity space, and obviously made it a little bit safer for our families as well, having that outdoor space. If you have field space at your school, you're, in a great position to offer an event like this. Obviously, it can be done on concrete, but field space, is something I really wish that I had. But that gives you so many more options to the activities that you can do.
Nice.
All right. Well, just let me know if any more questions come up. I'd be happy to answer them. The next one that we're going to talk about is basically where instead of having stations set up, I have a specific group activity. The first time I did this, I had an hour time slot, but they did 30 minutes of a group activity, which is a game that I call Defend the Den. And I have the directions to that in my resources. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But they played 30 minutes of that game, and it was a game that the whole school knew. So the students already kind of knew how to play the game. So we were able to kind of get it started, pretty quickly, and the parents kind of picked up on it as we went. And then after 30 minutes, they rotated to the cafeteria where one of our former kindergarten teachers taught a Zumba class to them. And so it kind of, it opened it up to, students who were, really wanted to get that, competitiveness out. They really wanted to participate in a group activity, but then also some of our students who enjoy the dance part and the cardio to Zumba. So it kind of, hit a couple different, types of students that, the different activities that they would want to do. In addition to that, I've also done a family fitness night where it's just a 1 hour activity. Instead of doing the 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, they just come to the gym and play 1 hour of one activity. I've done a glow in the dark Defend the Den, which I have a picture of to show you in just a second. And then a game called Corner Ball, which is a capture the flag style game, which I believe I put the directions to that game that one might not actually be on my resources, but I'll try to add that after the presentation's over. But it's capture the flag style game played with 4 teams instead of 2. Each team has 1 ball, and the goal is to steal all of the balls so that you have all 4. So Defend the Den is, there's lots of different names for this game, but it's, a game played between 2 teams. Each team has, in my case, 14 bowling pins, and then I have my gator skin or gopher balls lined up across the middle line in the gym. And when the game starts, they get a ball and they have to roll to the other side to try to knock over the pins. It's kind of blurry, but obviously it was dark, but I wanted you guys to see the kind of the glow in the dark effect. This is Defend the Den glow in the dark style. I usually play this just with bowling pins, but I wanted to add a different element to it the year that I did this. So I asked students and parents to donate 2-liter bottles, and so that was free. They brought them in. I had a ton. I had to actually recycle some because I had so many that were donated. And I got some fluorescent spray paint from Lowe's, spray painted them. And then I got I think they're Screamin' Yellow colored balls from Gopher so that they actually reacted to the black lights that I had. So I have black lights, if you can see. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the black lights are hanging from my basketball goals on the near side too that you can't see. And so that kind of helped light up the balls. It helped light up the 2-liter bottles, and so they were able to play this game in a glow in the dark. The students loved. So it was a game they're familiar with, but kind of added a little bit of a new level to the game. If you do want to do something like this, I do this during the school year as well, and I use the black lights in various ways. I would recommend trying to hit up the after Halloween sales to try to get them a little bit cheaper. That's what I did, and I used to work for a company that did laser tag when I was getting my master's in teaching PE, and they donated some to me, so I really lucked out with that. But then I ordered the rest after the after Halloween sale. So I've used them in a couple of different ways, to provide kind of a cool glow in the dark effect. A lot of times I'll do it around Halloween, and so. Definitely look into that. If you have any questions about that or how to get that going, feel free to email me or, contact me through my Facebook page. I'll put that link up as well. Just saw a question, how many black lights does it require? I have 3 black lights on each of my basketball goals. Obviously, the more you have, the better. You can I've done it on half of the gym as well, or just as, a station where I have station 1 is one side of the game, station 2 is the other side of the game. And so they basically would play it 2 times in a row as they rotated from station 1 to station 2. And so then you would only need the black lights maybe on half of the gym to start out with. I like to have them on my basketball goals because the glass on the basketball goals protect the balls, or protect the bulbs from the balls. During this unit, I usually only let them roll the ball because of the black lights. I've, knock on wood, have not had any black lights broken because of the balls. Normally when I play this game, I start out with them rolling, and then I allow them to toss and then potentially throw depending on the grade level and their behavior. But for this particular activity with the black lights, I usually only allow them to roll the ball. And it's also a safety, factor with it. It is, it looks lighter than it normally is in this picture. It is, relatively dark. So we try to keep those balls on the ground. So if it does hit somebody, it's just, hitting them in their legs or their feet, since they really can't see it coming since it's kind of dark. Enough. I have some side lights on the gym that I can put up if it's, a little bit too dark. I just saw another question. I have used this activity as a fitness night, and I use it in my classroom. So this particular picture was a family fitness night. This was an hour-long activity. I had about 50 participants in this one, and about 25 on each side roughly for about an hour. And that was their total fitness night for that particular night. And then I had a whole other group come in, and we did it for another hour.
Also, Lindsay, we have another question.
Okay.
Ryan asks, how did your participants sign up? Was it a Google form or something or some other platform?
I have a couple different platforms that I've used, and I actually have them listed in the next couple of slides. But I've used a Google form to do that, so it just basically automatically creates a spreadsheet. I've also used signupgenius.com, and these are all in my resources as well. Don't have a chance to write it down. It's in the resources. And then signup.com, which used to be volunteerspot.com, which I used to use when I first started. But then parents got a little confused because they thought they were volunteering to work the activity as opposed to participate. So that's when I kind of moved over to Sign Up Genius. But then they eventually changed the volunteer spot name to signup.com, probably for the same reason. Just, because I used to use that for field day as well. But yeah, so there's a couple different ways that I have them sign up, and they just, I send the link out to all of my staff. They forward it to their class list, and then they, from there, they just click the link and sign up, and the list just grows and grows. I saw a couple of other questions. I'll try to answer those real quick. This was for elementary age. You could definitely do this with, middle and high school, I think, especially with the glow in the dark effect. But I teach kindergarten through 5th grade. And then how many fitness nights I do a year, it really just depends on our school schedule. I started out with, I just did one, and I did like kindergarten through 2nd was 1 hour, 3rd through 5th was another hour. I've done 1 a semester, and then I've done 2 a semester. And then now I've kind of started partnering with the PTO and doing it during their book fair nights. So it's kind of gone back to just 1 a semester. I'd like to pick it back up again. It's it's kind of hard to convince our principal when it seems like every week we've got big events going on in the fall. So I may maybe try to do 2 in the spring this year, 1 with the spring book fair, and then maybe 1 kind of on my own. Jonathan, do you see any other questions I can answer right now?
Yeah, we just had a question pop up. How did you manage parents and students from interrupting play when they were waiting?
That's always tough because they all want to come in. The kids want to kind of come in and see what's going on in the session prior. I'm lucky enough that I have a staff that is so willing to help in these types of situations. They stay after school. They help me set up. They leave, go home, and then come back for the events. And they kind of help me manage some of those families that are coming for the next session. To the left of this picture is a long hallway that leads to the cafeteria. And so they just kind of hang out in there. Sometimes I'll kind of have them wait in the cafeteria, and then in hindsight, I kind of wish I would have some sort of activity for them to do while they're waiting. That could be a great idea as well, as have, even just some stations set up in the cafeteria, or, Just Dance playing, just to kind of keep the kids busy while they get there. Cause, you have, families that show up 20 or 30 minutes early for the family fitness night, which is great. Then they're kind of stuck entertaining their kids, and then they want to walk down to their teacher's classroom. And so, I usually try to have a couple of teachers, sometimes teachers from my related arts team, or sometimes it's just teachers that they just want to help out because, they're nice people. And I work at a great school of a lot of people that are willing to help out in events like this. So, typically I just kind of have people monitoring them, but it might not be a bad idea to have some kind of activity for them to do while they're waiting if you have the space for it. All right, just let me know if anything else comes up. I'll go ahead. These next 2 group activities or family fitness nights I'm going to talk about were also 2 of my other kind of more structured family fitness nights that were a pretty good success. I did do a treasure hunt. I sent home an invitation to our students through email and kind of told them this, this tale. Our school was built in 2009, so it's still relatively new. And this was a few years ago. So school was being built, they buried 3 treasure boxes and kind of made, this whole story to kind of intrigue them. And this was just for our kindergarten through 2nd students. And created this whole treasure hunt. This is the one that I probably put the most work into because of all the documents that needed to be created. So, and I'll show you some pictures of these, but I had a clue sheet that had the different and several different routes so that all the families weren't taking the same route around the school to the different areas. And then I had a parent cheat sheet because we did use some technology. So the parent cheat sheet was kind of there in case the technology failed. I used an app called Tellagami, which I'm going to show you kind of a screenshot of that in a second, as well as QR codes. And then I asked parents to donate the treasure that I put in the treasure boxes. So they donated stuff from their work. Some of it was just stuff from the dollar store, you know, some like keychains, and I had some playground balls that were donated, and just random little things that, you know, kindergarten through second graders love, but they're super cheap and easy to get. But I just sent an email out to parents and asked them to donate. And I mean, you'll see a picture of it in a minute. I mean, they really came through, and that was, you know, at no cost to me. I had 3 treasure boxes full of treasure for the students. I'll talk more about treasure hunt in just a minute. I also did kind of I called it a fitness fair, but it was kind of set up like you would see fitness classes set up at a YMCA. I contacted local businesses that are fitness based, and I asked them if they would want to participate in this event. They could teach up to 6 30-minute sessions. They could teach 1 session for 30 minutes or 6. It just was all dependent on what they wanted to do. And then I created the schedule based on what they were available for. And so the family signed up for the classes online. So I actually, at that time, I was using volunteerspot.com, which is now signup.com. And I basically created a link for each class, and they would click on the link and they would type in their name and it would sign them up for that class. I could keep track of how many, or I could put a limit on how many for each class. And I asked the businesses how many people they wanted to teach, so I knew what their limit was and the equipment that they had. So I could put a limit, and once it was full, it was full. We had several of them sell out, which was awesome. We had, you know, 6 30-minute sessions. I had sessions for kindergarten through second, so those ones were kind of geared towards that age group. And then I had the last 3 30-minute sessions were geared towards 3rd through 5th. That way, you know, they could tailor their exercises to that age group. And then I just created the schedule like you would see at the YMCA, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So this is all of these documents that I have in here are included in the resource area. If you see one that I forgot to load, just let me know and I'll put that right up. But this was kind of how I started. I came up with 9 different routes. So I had 9 different activities, and then the 10th activity was the treasure box. So they had to complete 9, you know, physical activities, and then the last clue led them to the treasure box. So I created 9 different routes so that all of our families would not be going to the same place first. And so, you know, if they had route number 1, they would be going to bowling first. If they had route number 2, they'd be going to basketball first. And so I printed out several copies of each route and handed them out so that it kind of spread everybody out. I also created a map, which I don't have a picture of, but what I did was I purposely crisscrossed the families across the school. If they started in the cafeteria, then they had to walk into the yellow hallway, which was probably the furthest point, and then they had to walk kind of back to the gym, which is by the cafeteria. And so I kind of purposely tried to crisscross them around so that they had to do a little bit of extra walking as well. I see a question about the 9 families total. I can't remember exactly how many families there were, but there was, I gave several families route number 1. So there might have been 2 or 3 families at route number 1, but the whole group was not at route number 1. So definitely more than 9 families, but I may have had 2 or 3 families at each route as opposed to, you know, all, you know, 25 or 30 families that came during that session. And I broke this one up into 2 one-hour sessions. So I had a group do the treasure hunt, you know, from 5:30 to 6:30, and then the second group did the same thing from 6:30 to 7:30. All the same routes, all the same activities. So this is what the students saw. They have their 10 clues, and they have to go in order. And so the first one says, go to the hallway whose color is the same as the grass and find this symbol. So in our school, we have a green hallway, a yellow hallway, and a blue hallway. And so they would have had to go to the green hallway and then walk up and down the green hallway until they could find this symbol. Now, I had a bunch of bowling equipment set up so they could easily find the symbol. But above or below the symbol, so I had a picture of this, these bowling pins and the ball on the wall. And below that, I had a QR code. And so they scanned the QR code, and it brought them to a video link that's created with the Tellagami app, which I'm going to show you in just a second. The Tellagami app read them their directions for the activity. And so I'm going to skip over to the next. So this was my parent cheat sheet, but the cheat sheet is actually my script for each one that I use to create my Tellagami. So I'll go down to the bowling one. So if they found that bowling one, when they scan the QR code, it says it's, a picture of the Tellagami, which you'll see in a second. And then you hear my voice talking. It says, great job finding the bowling station. At this station, you will have 2 chances each round to knock over as many bowling pins as you can. After rolling the ball 2 times, record how many pins are knocked down, then set the pins back up and try again. And so they can record their score. They're not really comparing it to anybody else, but they can record their score just as a way, to kind of keep track. So I used my script as the parent cheat sheet in case the technology failed and if they couldn't connect to the wireless or something like that. They at least had the direction. So if it wasn't working, then the parent could just read, at this station, blah, 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 you're going to do this, so that at least they knew what to do in case the technology failed. As far as using the technology, we asked parents to download a free QR reader app before they came so that they can use their cell phones or their tablets. But we did have an iPad cart that we had available for, parents who either didn't want to use their phones or they just didn't have the access to the technology. I walked them through the process of signing into our guest wireless at our school so that they could use it throughout the building. And then once they were connected, they were free to go on their treasure hunt. And so they went through all 9 of the activities, and each one is a little bit different. Basketball, shooting the ball 10 times, from the free throw line, see how many they could get, throw it X amount of times. Each disc golf target was worth a different amount of points. How many points did you earn? Typical stuff that we would, probably do in our PE class, but they were kind of spread out all over the school. We were lucky enough that year that we had some open classrooms. And so I used a couple of open classrooms. I used the hallways. I used the gym, the cafeteria. If I do this again, I would love to use some of my outdoor space. That's, definitely something I'd like to try to get some people outside as well. Kind of like the Pokemon Go idea that's kind of been thrown around on the PE Central site and on Twitter. It's kind of the same idea, but, you're just adding in some exercise as well. Treasure boxes. I just took some boxes that the school, I think some printers came in them, or some different things that they had delivered to the school, and I just borrowed those boxes and covered them with some butcher paper from our teacher workroom. We're lucky enough to have lots of great resources. And then this is all of the stuff that was donated for free by our families. I did not have to purchase any of the stuff that's in the treasure box. They were full, and I still had a whole other box that I even held on to for a couple of years and still have some of this stuff left over, even from 3 years ago, because they donated so much. So don't be afraid to ask your parents, to donate, even if it's just a couple things from the dollar store. When you have 600 kids, it all adds up, and you've got all these, free, great things that, kindergarten through second graders are going to love. So the Tellagami app, basically what this does is you can take a background picture of the activity that you're doing. So each activity I set up in my gym and I took a picture of it. And then on the app, you're going to create, it's basically like a digital version of yourself. And I'll show a picture of that in just a second. And then you can put the picture in the background. You have the digital version of yourself. And then you can press the record button and record. And so I would take that script, and if it was, the bowling picture in the background, then I would read the script from my parent cheat sheet. of what they were supposed to do at the bowling station. And then from there, when you're done and you're happy with the recording, you can share that link or share the video of yourself to your email. Then you take that link from your email and you make a QR code. And there, you can just Google QR code creator on Google, and there'll be a bunch that, free ones that come up. So then you put in the link, it creates a QR code, you can print it out, and then I post that underneath the symbol that they're looking for in the treasure hunt. And so they scan the QR code, it tells them what to do, they complete the activity, they write down their score, and then they go to clue number 2. And so this takes them all around the school, and then the last clue takes them to the treasure box where they can get their prize. That you guys can look into is called Orasma. I haven't used it for a treasure hunt before, but it's almost kind of the same idea, but instead of scanning the QR code, you could actually set it up to where that video is linked to the image of the bowling pins. And once you scan the image of the bowling pins, it kind of brings them to the link, and it kind of brings it to life, and it shows the video of what they're supposed to do, or at least the recording of your digital self telling them what to do. So that's something else you can look into. If you download that app, use it and just scan a $1 bill, and that's an easy way to, or even a $20 bill. It's an easy way to kind of see how it works. Those are already kind of embedded as different videos that are on there. So if you guys want to try that out, that's definitely another option if you didn't want to use the app Tellagami. So we talked about QR codes. So here is a picture of what the Tellagami looks like. So this is my gym. Instead of the picture of my gym, it would actually be a picture of the game already set up. So basically, what's in the background is what they're looking at, area that they're working in. And so I created my digital self, and then you can see the record button. So this is not what they would see. This is what you would see while you're creating it. So you would click the record button. You would, talk and say whatever you wanted to say to them, what activity directions you wanted to give them. And then you can press the preview button. You can listen to it if you like it. Then there's also, you can't see it here, but on the app, you can see a share button. And so the share button, there's a couple different ways you can share it. I normally just send it to my email and then get the link and share it, or use the link to create the QR code. And then so when they're doing their treasure hunt, they have the symbol they're looking for, the picture of the symbol they're looking for, and then the QR code underneath. And they scan it with the QR code reader, and it brings them to the link of your video telling them what to do. And so that's kind of how that app works. This is the kind of switching back over to that kind of YMCA style class schedule that I was talking about before, where we had all these different companies come in. This is the schedule that I came up with. The top row, the 5 o'clock, 5:30, and 6 o'clock time slots, those were for my kindergarten through second students, and then the bottom section were for my 3rd through 5th. You can kind of see the different companies that we've had. We had CrossFit come out, and they did a kids fit class. We had YMCA come and do a boot camp. We had a yoga class, martial arts, Pilates, all different companies. And all I did was just look, basically looked on Google Maps and found a bunch of different our area. And I also asked our parents if they had any connections to local ones. I tried to keep them in the Fort Mill area because I wanted it to be businesses where my families, if they liked the class, they could maybe go and join, their gym or, their company and take fitness classes with them. All of these companies came out at no cost. We did allow them to do a little bit of advertising, with, handing out pamphlets and that kind of stuff, but they did not charge us at all. And by the way, I know a lot of to charge for events like this, and I could make a killing charging for events like this, but kind of from the beginning, I've told myself that I want this to be something that parents and families can come to at no cost. And so that's my main goal. Obviously, when PTO gets involved and they're selling food, that's kind of a little bit of cost to them, as far as if they want to eat the food. But As far as the actual fitness activities, I try to, I have not charged once for any of these events. And so that's kind of my goal, is to, you know, I want everybody to be able to participate. I don't want a family to say, I don't have $5 a person. I have 5 people in my family. I can't pay $25 to go and do something like this. So I try to, you know, make it as free as possible. And so I was very lucky that these companies were more than willing to come out and these classes. Some of them taught all 6 sessions. That was that Achieve Fitness that I've kind of partnered with throughout a couple of my fitness nights. They taught all 6 sessions. You know, never asked for any money. You know, all they wanted to do was say, hey, you know, if you like what you're seeing, come visit us at our location. And so this was a hugely successful event. I mean, I would have potentially, you know, 20 people signed up for each class at each session. Sometimes they were even more than 20 people, depending on how many people they could have at each session.
Lindsay, we have a question for the back channel.
Okay.
What other ideas can you use with a school that has really no access to any type of like iPads or iPhones or like smartphones?
Right. And I know that's a big issue with several schools and school districts across, you know, the nation and internationally as well. You know, you can still do events like the treasure hunt without technology. You know, you can have, if the parents don't have, or if the students don't have access, but the school might, you could maybe put an iPad or some kind of digital device at each station that they could just press play to do the video, or you can just use that parent cheat sheet. And once they find that symbol, the parent can say, okay, guys, at this station, you're going to do this, this, and this. So they can still participate in the treasure hunt. But at that point, no technology would be involved. The parents would essentially be saying what the directions are based off of the cheat sheet that we're giving them. And they can, you know, basically give them the instructions for each station if you couldn't go the technology route. You know, so if you're able to have some, but just not enough for everybody, you could just have one device at each station where they could just press play and play the video over and over again, you know, each time somebody comes, or just give the parents a cheat sheet and the parents read them the activity directions each time they go. Does that make sense? I hope that answers the question. Okay. If there you have any other follow-up questions with that, please, you know, don't hesitate to type it in the back channel, and I can always get in contact with you guys after. All right, so very quickly, because I do want to make sure we get to the field day portion before we end. These are some other resources that I've used to organize or set up my family fitness nights as well as field day. I have smore.com, which is kind of a digital flyer resource, and you get a certain amount of flyers for free. And I, you know, usually create that and then I can email it out. And it's just, you know, it's a way to save paper if you don't want to print out 600 flyers. Or, you know, we have Tuesday folders that we send home every Tuesday. If you don't want to send out 600 flyers, you can do a flyer through email, and then just ask your families or ask your teachers, hey, if you know somebody who does not communicate well through email, maybe you can just do a hard copy for those students, so that we make sure we don't leave anybody out. So there, we also have the signup.com and Sign Up Genius that we talked about, as well as Google Forms, which automatically creates a spreadsheet for you. You can create a Google form to ask any information you need, you know, how many people are coming. When we did the PTO food for the tailgate, I asked them how many people were eating, you know, so that we knew how much food to order, that type of stuff, and how many, you know, people were going to participate in the activities. Email addresses in case we needed to contact them, and that sort of stuff. I see a question about how long did it take to get.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so how long did it take to get all that stuff? I planned that for a good couple of months. You know, I tried to send out the initial email and talk to them about, you know, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Is this something you'd be interested in? And kind of get their interest level. And then once I had an exact date and the times, then I contacted those businesses again and said, okay, these are the times that I'm offering. These are the grade levels I'm offering it to. Which times and which grade levels work best for the activity that you're going to be teaching? And so it was definitely a good couple of months. Usually as far as the parents sign up, I'm pretty lucky. My parents are pretty good about signing up. I usually try to give them a 2-week period, 2 weeks before the event. I may advertise it before that, but at least 2 weeks before the event, I have the sign up go live to where they can start signing up. But as far as, you definitely have to contact those businesses, a couple months in advance just to see if they're interested. And then you come up with your date and your schedule format, and then you can talk to the businesses to see who wants to teach at what time, and then you can kind of create your schedule off of that. And then once you have your schedule, you can create your sign up, and I would send the sign up out at least 2 weeks in advance. Most of mine, obviously I use a lot of technology with the sign up, so a lot of them are signing up through the internet, but obviously if we have some students who don't have access to internet, we can send home a form that they can fill out, a hard copy, and then we can just manually enter it in to sign them up for it. All right, let me know if anything else comes up. I am going to quickly move on to field day just to make sure we can get all of this in. And talk a little bit about the format, how I organize my parent volunteers, how we handle lunch, the RAIN plan, which I had to use for the first time last year, and then some resources towards the end. My field day is organized in one day. We've done it on separate days. My very first year, I was split between 2 schools, and I ended up doing 4 different field days. And that was a lot. Definitely worth it for the kids, but it was a lot towards the end of the year trying to get all of that scheduled. So at the new school, or the school that I came to after my first year, I decided to make it in one day. And so I have my kindergarten through 2nd grades in the morning when it's not as hot, because we all know how kindergarten gets when they get too hot. So we give them about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then we have a 30-minute break so that my staff can eat that are helping me. And we have some time to get lunches delivered to our students. And then we have our 3rd through 5th grade come out from 11:15 to 2 o'clock. I had that type of format, that schedule for the last 5 years, and it seems to have worked out pretty great. Teachers are okay with not having the full day. I usually try to give them some sort of activity to do with their students at the time that they're not participating in field day, so they don't feel like they have to just try to teach them while all this fun is going on right outside their classroom. I know it's hard to keep their attention and the anticipation of what they're about to do. So I try to give them some sort of activities. How I format my field day is I have 3 different zones. So I have 3 grade levels at a time. So I've got 1 grade level at each zone. So 1 grade level will start at zone A, which is a combination of the gym and our cafeteria. So it's all indoors, and we have, stations set up. I've done group activities in the past, but more recently I've done open stations, because everything else about the field day is very structured as far as they have to be at one station, with their class. They have to rotate on a schedule. So I wanted them to have that little bit of social time where they can choose who they want to work with. And there's also other classes in the gym with them, so they can choose to work with students from other classes as well, and they can choose the station that they want to do. So it's kind of like the family fitness night setup, where I have a lot of different stations set up, and they can choose the station they want to go to. And there's usually no more than 2 classes in the gym at a time, and then they so we have the 2 teachers for that class that are monitoring the students. Then I have a bunch of parent volunteers that are in there monitoring to make sure that everybody stays safe and is following the directions. Then after that, they're there for about 45 to 50 minutes, and then they rotate out to zone B, which is around our bus loop, which is that area of the tailgate picture that I showed you. So all around the bus loop, and then we have 1 station on the, I have all of my water games. So I usually have, depending on how many classes I have each year, I have at least 6 stations. In the past, I've had to do 7 when we used to have 7 classes per grade level. But I have 6 stations, and they're all water style games, water relays. I have a car wash that I created out of PVC pipe. If you haven't seen that, that's been posted on Twitter or PE Central. Just type in kitty car wash and on Google, and you'll see some pictures of it. There was a blog that I wrote on the SNS Supply website. So if you want to type that in, you can actually see the blog, and it has, you know, how I made it and that type of stuff. But that's kind of been a big hit the last couple of years, and that's part of our water station as well. Rotate out to behind the school at the teacher parking lot. We usually don't. We have the teachers park somewhere else that day so that we have some space in the teacher parking lot, and that's our dry zone. We have, you know, all the activities that don't involve water. So we have relay races. We'll have the parachute, especially for the younger kids. We always do a bounce house that I'm lucky enough our PTO pays for each year, and so we'll have that blown up in the back. We'll have, you know, 6 stations in that area as well, and I try to change up those stations, at least a couple of them each year. So they'll be at each zone for about 45 to 50 minutes. And then by the time they finish all 3 zones, it'll be time for them to go back in. They will be over. As far as managing the stations and the rotations, I originally started using just an iPad with a sound system. And I use an app called Seconds Pro in my class when I time my stations out. And so it plays music from your iPad. It has a timer. When the timer is running out, it'll give you like a 3-second beep. And then the music will turn off. At that point, everybody knows it's time to rotate. And we do this in PE, so the students at field day know what to do as well. So I used that for a couple of years. But then one year, I had a 5th grader who is actually a DJ. He has his own business. He's a 5th grader. He was a 5th grader. He's now in 8th grade, and he's called DJ Little K. So he came up to me and proposed the idea of skipping his last field day in elementary school to be the DJ. That was, you know, the one thing that he wanted to do. You know, talk to his parents, made sure his parents were okay with that. They, you know, were very supportive of it. And he came out and he did an awesome job. He had all of his equipment, all of his music, and, you know, played the music. He rotated them on, he got on the microphone, rotated them for me when we needed everybody rotated. When it was time to rotate zones, he helped me out with that. So that took a huge load off. I know, you know, that's very rare. But if you're in the Charlotte area, Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm in Fort Mill, you know, I'm sure he'd be willing to to help you out at some point if you have other events. So check him out. But it's been such a blessing to have him, and he's now come back. He's in 8th grade, so he's done three of our field days, and he's promised to come back every year until he goes off to college. So that's, you know, definitely a great resource that I've been able to use the last couple of years. As far as parent volunteers, I use the sign up. I ask them to volunteer, and I am extremely lucky that, I mean, I can get probably 100 volunteers in about 48 hours. About 50 volunteers for K2, about 50 volunteers for 3-5. And, you know, I'm just very, very lucky to be in a situation where I have so many parent volunteers. Our volunteers, when they get there, they come in, they check in at a table with me, and I give them their schedule. I usually tell them 2 out of the 3 zone rotations, so that the one zone rotation they're not working, they can spend with their child in their class. But I do ask them to work the either the first 2 or the last 2 zone rotations. So I have an overlap in that middle zone rotation. So we have plenty of parents that are helping each other out. Our zone leaders, as far as, because what they do is they check in with me, I give them their schedule, and then I send them to a zone. I ask them, do you want to work water games? Do you want to work the dry games? Do you want to be inside? And then I send them to my zone leaders. My zone leaders are part of my related arts team, some of our specialists that don't necessarily have a class that day because it's field day. And I send the parent volunteers to them, and then they fill the stations because they can actually see what they need. And so after I send them to them, they assign the parents to the different stations, and that's been a huge help because they can move them around. As I'm still in the gym checking parents in, they can move them around to where we need them. For lunch, I usually send a Google form home through email, and then hard copies for those who don't have email. I ask the cafeteria what they want to serve. It's usually a sandwich, you know, an apple, some milk, you know, a vegetable. And so I'd send home the menu, and then I have them fill out the Google form. It gives me a spreadsheet, and then I can give it to the cafeteria. They prepare all of the lunches, and then everybody actually eats in their classroom that day. And any extra staff that we have that aren't teaching a class or they're not walking around with the class at field day, I have them deliver the lunches to the classroom. So 3rd through 5th usually eat around 10:15 because they're coming out at 11:15. So that way they have a chance to eat, digest their food, and then come out. And then the kindergarten through 2nd kids, we usually have their food waiting on them when they come in at 10:45 so that everybody can eat in their classroom since we're using the cafeteria as part of field day. close, so I'm going to try to zoom through these last couple slides. Our rain plan this year, this past school year, we had to use it. I drop it down to 2 zones instead of 3. I have 1 zone that's in the gym and the cafeteria, and I have a partition between the 2 that opens. And so it allows a large open space. I actually brought the bounce house inside this year, the inflatable obstacle course inside the gym. So we were still able to use that. And then I just set up a ton of stations that they could participate in. And I have 1 whole grade level in that space. Since I could open it up to the cafeteria and creates 1 large room, it actually ended up working out really well with having 1 whole grade level in there. And then another grade level would be kind of in the center of the school using the hallways as some time stations. So we would have a timer going and we would rotate those classes through, several time stations. And so instead of having 3 zones, they only got 2 zones, but they were still at least able to do a lot of the same activities and still have a field day. And I did kindergarten through 1st at the same time for 2 hours, then 2nd and 3rd for 2 hours, then 4th and 5th for 2 hours. Some resources I have uploaded. I have my parent letter that I send home, my teacher letter that I give to the teachers when I have the field day meeting, a couple weeks before field day, and then the teacher schedule and map. This is an example of the schedule that I give them, and I usually highlight each teacher's name and give them their own schedule so they can clearly see where they start, where they go next, that type of stuff. So they're looking for the station signs at each zone. And then on the back side, I give them a map of the entire field day. I have zone A in the gym area down here, zone B on the bus loop with the water games, and zone C is the teacher parking lot. The last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is my Fit with Family kind of movement, I guess I'm trying to do. We may have seen it on PE Central or Twitter, but I'm trying to encourage my students to exercise with their family and then send in pictures, and then I put it on my door. And so these are some pictures of me and my family exercising together. To the left is my gym door with pictures of my students. And so that's something I really encourage. If you guys want to try that at your school, try to get that started. Just tell them exercise with their family, take a picture and send it in. And it's really been a fun thing for our students. Jonathan, I think that's all I got.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. Just the amount of information and just the great information you gave us was very, very well done. And there's a lot of great feedback on the back channel. People really loved your session today. A little reminder for everyone. Oh, sorry. Go, Lindsay?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. A little reminder for everyone is that after we press stop on our session will be uploaded to YouTube. So you will have it archived forever for your viewing pleasure in case you want to go back to it and get some of the information from the session. Also, at the end of the Phys Ed Summit, which is tomorrow, there will be a feedback survey available for you. So please submit your feedback. And then once you submit your feedback survey, you will also receive a certificate of completion saying that you attended the Phys Ed Summit. And one more thing, Lindsay, can you please let everyone know where they can find you on Twitter and email?
Yes, and I've also uploaded this whole presentation as one of the resources that has the information as well, but my Twitter handle is @LDillon612. My email is DILL@FORTMILLSCHOOLS.org. And I'd really want to thank everybody that tuned in today. This was the first time I've done a session like this online, so I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your feedback. I'll go back and try to take a look at that. And I really want to thank the Phys Ed Summit team for putting this together, and Jonathan for being my mentor through this. You guys are doing great things, so I really appreciate all the work that you guys have put in offering this for us for free. It's a really great resource.
Thank you, Lindsay. And we hope that you tune in. We have 22 more hours of live Phys Ed Summit action, so I hope you tune in to the great sessions that we have planned for you today and tomorrow morning. So thank you, and thanks for attending.